Hello, friends. It's good to see you. It's time for class. If you're watching the replay, that's great. Leave a comment. For those of you here with us live, thank you so much for being here. And I want to start out by saying a big welcome to a new member, Stephanie Smith. So great to see you here, first of all. And thank you so much for joining. We really appreciate you. And you will notice that we have a whole members only playlist, and we do at least one live members only live stream a month, and that is coming up. It's at the end of this month on the 31st. We are doing tarot and tunes. We're going to talk about the connections between tarot and music and do some readings, and that's going to be fun. Members only. So thank you so much for joining, Stephanie. And thank you everyone for being here. A special shout out to all the members and to the moderators. If you're here for the first time, you will need to subscribe in order to comment. So tonight's class, Dina, here comes the sun, and I say it's all right. Oh my gosh, it's the final countdown. We are the world. Here comes the sun. That's perfect. I love it. I love it. I love it. And Dina, I know that I owe you a message, and thank you for your patience. So tonight's class, this is how it happened. It was Global Tarot Circle. I want to say maybe even at the beginning of this month or maybe last month, I'm not sure. But it was Global Tarot Circle, and we were talking about Judgment. And someone mentioned that I had a lot to say about Judgment, Major Arcana 20, which I do. And someone else said, we should do a whole class on Judgment. And I'm thinking, can I say enough about Judgment that we can make a whole class out of it? You know, I probably could, but that sounded like way too much work. So I'm like, let me do the final three cards. The Sun, Judgment, and the World. And so tonight, that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a deep dive into these cards. And let's hop right on over to CardCam. So, what have I done here? We have the Sun, and you can see these are piles. So we're going to look at all three cards, Sun, Judgment, and World, in a bunch of different decks. All right, Dina, you are definitely already in the Tarot and Tunes vibe. That is fabulous. So Gemini Sun, you have the Sun Tarot card tattooed on you. Is it like a weight sun or something different? Let us know. Oh, no card cam yet. Right, because I have to hit two buttons, not one. Sorry. There you go. Okay. So thank you, Dina. Because I can see it all here, and I forget that it takes two buttons. Okay, here's CardCam. We're here. And my question to you, Gemini Sun, is your sun tattoo like this, like the weight sun, or is it different? Let us know. And again, it's so good to see all of you here. A special shout out to all the members. And let's get going. So first of all, I'm going to start by saying, I am not a tarot historian, nor am I really an expert on tarot symbology. My whole thing with tarot is I read tarot. That's what I do. That's what I'm an expert on. The rest of it, just I'm adjacent to it. I'm not an expert. But nonetheless, I think we can together as a group take a look at these cards and see what we think. Ice Chan, Sarah, good to see you. Thanks for being here. All right, so let's start with the Sun, because here we are, and we can see numerous suns. And what I can tell you about historically, so Gemini Sun said, I can send you a photo. It's a little different. I had my artist add cats in the field instead of the rays to go outside the card, that go outside the card's edges. Oh, please do. Send me a picture and give me permission to post it so everyone can see it. And in fact, I have always wanted to do like a whole video project or a photography project about tarot tattoos. I know so many people who have tarot tattoos. I have no tattoos. But I know so many people who have tarot tattoos, and I would love to interview them, study them, talk about like what does it mean when you get those sacred images tattooed on your skin? Like what does that mean? How does that change your life? I would love to talk about that. Desi, good to see you. We're not doing live readings tonight. This is a class, and we're happy to have you join us. So Dina, thanks for being a member. We really appreciate you. Dina says the sun is a happy effing card. And it is, but I'm going to say there's more to it. So let's look first at the fact that if we take away kind of the non-traditional outliers for a minute, Desi, we do readings here at least 4 times a week. I will be back, in fact, let's see, I'll put the links up tomorrow, but it'll be Thursday at noon, Friday at noon, Saturday at 12:30, this is all Eastern time, and then Monday at 9:30 a.m. I do live readings all of those times, but I also do classes, and this is a class. Okay, so Desi agrees the sun is a positive card. Why are we looking at the world here? We're supposed to be looking at the sun. All right. So the interesting thing that we have to think about with the sun is there are 2 significant traditions. Since the beginning of time with tarot, since the beginning of tarot time, there are 2 significant traditions. One is 2 children for the sun. The other is 1 child, and the child is on a horse. So my question to you is like, what are your thoughts about that? Do you have like a preference? Do you like the 2 children? Do you like the child on the horse? Now, I was doing some research, and certain people have posited what the 2 children represent. I've heard a lot of different things, but I don't know that we have a definitive understanding of why the 2 children and what the 2 children represent. Trey is wondering if there's a connection with the lovers and the devil. You know that too. Lumen, I've never seen one with 2 children. Yeah, it is historically, like in the olden days, it was 50-50. You know, half of the decks had the 2 children, the other half child on horse. It was not right. Romulus and Remus is that you're not the first one to think about that. You're absolutely right. A lot of people have posited that. Absolutely. So Dina, for you, you're saying that when you see, if you're reading with one of these decks where we see the 2 children, for you, that's going to change the meaning. You're going to see this more like the 6 of Cups. So looking at the past or happy memories. Hey, Jake5345, Robin, haven't seen you in a long time. Anna Kay, good to see you. And so, okay, so Dina, talk to me. And does anyone else agree? Like, would you read these differently? If you saw this kind of an image versus this kind of an image, would you read it differently? So Dina here is going to go back more to the 6 of Cups. Trey, do I see nostalgia with the sun? Not typically. Not typically, no. But I'm thinking Dina would, or some people might, with these 2 kids. And here's the thing. Whether it is the 1 child or the 2 children, many readers will see children as one of the things the sun can talk about. Predicting pregnancy, talking about having children. And in that way, I think there is nostalgia. Because we all, you know, like, I'm nostalgic. I look back at my own childhood, but I also look back at my kids' childhoods. So there is a nostalgia there. Lumen says they would read it differently. Ice Chan, I don't think I'd read it differently, but the sun to me has always been a healthy card. So we've heard some keywords for the sun so far. Happy, healthy, positive for the sun. Claire C says, I like the 2 children. I see Jungian animals, Jungian anima animus balance like yin yang balance. That's beautiful. So Ice Chan sees health here, like good health. Christina wonders if one of the reasons we have a focus on children is it's sort of about innocence. And the idea like, just be happy, Don't worry about all the terrible things in the world, just be happy. I can see that, certainly. Anna K, great to see you. Sun is 5th house in astrology. I would connect it to astrology, which is creation of all kinds, so could be children. Desi sees joy and enlightenment. Trey says children are very connected spiritually. Now, while I can't speak to mythology around the two children, I can tell you what I see in the child on the horse, specifically as Waite and the Waite clones have depicted it. The thing that is so powerful for me here is that, well, first of all, the child is staying on the horse without a bridle, without saddle, without clothes, just like, look, Ma, no hands, here I am on the horse. I love that. So there's a confidence. I see a confidence here. And confidence is one of my key words for the sun. But what do sunflowers do? Sunflowers turn to face the sun. But that's not happening here. What's happening? The sunflowers have actually turned to face the child. The child is shining more brightly than the sun itself. And so for me, that is a very strong message. And it's a message of don't hide your light. It's like from the book of Matthew in the Bible, don't hide your light under a bushel. Don't hide your light. Allow yourself to shine as brightly as you can. Don't let anyone or anything dull your shine. So I see an encouragement here. Annika, good to see you. We see good fortune and happiness, certainly. What other keywords do you have for the sun? And at this time, let me bring in some other suns. Now, Anna K was connecting the sun to astrology. You know who else did that? Ciro Marchetti. So my question to you is, would you interpret this differently than you'd interpret this, differently than you would interpret this? Now, Lumen is talking about the red banner, and the red, there's a couple things. First of all, the red feather. The red feather is interesting. The fool wears a red feather. Death wears a red feather. The sun wears a red feather. That's an interesting thing. The red banner is also interesting, and there are theories about what it's meant to mean, and I don't know. So if anyone knows, or if anyone wants to Google on that and report, please do. Please do. So Ice Chan finds confidence interesting. So Annika says that they would read it the same. Oh, Trey, is it a phoenix feather? I do not know. But you'll hear mention of like red feather, like there's a publishing company called Red Feather. I used to have a group I called the Red Feather Guild. So it is something we talk about. Christina says the red feather is good luck. Trey says judgment is often called the phoenix. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Dina says the more esoteric card speaks of vibrational energy. Do you want to say more about that? Justine, good to see you. Excuse me. I used to read the sun as clarity, or the path ahead has been cleared. You know what to do. So Annika says red equals courage. Yeah, that makes sense. Ashley says good evening. Hello. So Anna K, the sun is your core. It's the center of your universe. Justine says kind of goes along with your keyword, confidence. Yeah, totally. Teresa, this is Ciro Marchetti's Gilded Royale. Christina, red is the energy of the spirit, a link between world and spirit. That's beautiful. Beautiful. Claire C., red flag flows like blood and life energy. Soul Star, good to see you. Thank you. Okay. Now, let's just, red is also abundance, says Anna K. Beautiful. And Trey says red is the root chakra. I love that. Yeah. So now let's see a couple of other ones. Light Seers. And Mother Peace. What's going on in Mother Peace? They're exercising. They're exercising. So, Justine, you are the second one to mention the lovers here. Are you saying that because of the two children? Maybe? Ice Chan, can the sun talk about victory? Yeah, I think it can. I think it can. You're saying this is like the Five of Wands, right? So, yeah, the two children. I mean, I wouldn't go there particularly. I wouldn't have gone there. But it could. And that's the thing is like there are no wrong answers here, right? You know, I mean, if there's a way that you see the card, there's a way that you see the card. Releasing of energy, sure. So let's talk about, first of all, we're going to be divided into two different groups. Those of us who like the sun is the sun and it doesn't really matter how it's depicted, and those of us who are going to read different suns different ways. And like I'm in the first group mostly, you know, where the sun is the sun is the sun and I don't really care how it's depicted, but it is true that when I'm looking at the cards, if my eyes are drawn to something, if I see something, like I might say, you need to go to the gym, and don't be afraid to go to the gym. Don't be afraid that you look bad in your gym clothes. That's why you should be in the gym. You know, I might say that since these people are exercising. Or I might say, maybe you should study astrology. You know, I might. But my basic understanding of the sun will stay the same. So Annika, bravery, confidence, absolutely. Adina sees childish joy in the light seers. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Like the way this one ray is kind of coming down, I sort of feel like we're really bringing in that energy. So how have you seen the sun in readings? I can tell you when I was freezing my butt off, living in the Pocono Mountains in Pennsylvania and planning to move to Florida, but there was so much we had to do before we could move. There was so much. And the sun card kept coming up, coming up, coming up. Remember, Florida is the sunshine state. The sun card kept coming up saying, and to me it was saying, don't worry, you'll get there. And very often, not just for myself, I will see the sun to talk about a climate, to talk about living in a place where the sun shines more or going on a tropical vacation. Dina, I hardly see anyone get the sun. Trey, being a Leo rising, do you identify with the sun much? Only as I spoke with you about that idea of courage and confidence, that I will use this card to get courage and confidence, but not beyond that. Now, strength, on the other hand, yes, very much so, very much so. So here's the thing. I have noticed that a lot of our keywords and concepts for the sun are very positive, and arguably, I mean, would you agree that the sun is perhaps or could be called the happiest card in the deck? Could you call the sun the happiest card in the deck? What do you think? Lumen, I've recently come up in relation to a question about children. Oh, it's recently come up in relation to a question about children, and it was paired with the Four of Cups and another card. Can't remember. Yeah, I would say, yeah, you're having children. In that case, definitely yes. Definitely yes. And so Christina says, happiest Major Arcana card. Certainly, there is agreement that the sun is the happiest card. Okay, so here's the challenge. In my way of thinking, even the most positive cards can sometimes have a negative interpretation. And even the most negative cards can sometimes have a positive interpretation. Caroline McLaughlin, good to see you. Thanks for being a member. Yes, I always see happy. Dina, but the Four of Cups might not want them. Teresa, is the Witch's Tarot there? I have it. Okay, true story. I have it, but I haven't been able to lay my hands on it for a while. It is somewhere in a box in a bag, and I'm really sad to tell you that that's the case. Right, and I agree, Dina, what you're saying about that Four of Cups there. So Teresa, is there something about the Sun and the Witch's Tarot that you wanted to mention? And Betty, yes, that's exactly where I was going. I have seen the Sun talk about narcissism. In certain relationship readings, when the Sun comes up, I'm not seeing it being about having kids. I'm not seeing it in a positive, happy way. I'm seeing freaking narcissism. And that will happen. That will happen, yes. Oh, Anna Kay, overdoing it. Right, like you're making hay while the sun shines and you just keep making hay and making hay and making hay. Right, absolutely, yes. Trey, being willfully blind, absolutely. Absolutely, I'll stare directly in the sun but never in a mirror. Absolutely, yes. Yes. Oh, Betty, shining a light on something. Let's bring something to light. Absolutely. Make sure, good to see you. Christina, reversed, you see it as lack of confidence. Oh, you know, I don't remember either, Teresa, what that card looks like. Mixuir, we're talking about the Sun. Yes, there it is, Soul Star. It is all about context. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you for saying that. If you go through the playlist of my live classes, you will discover that like at least every third, fourth, or fifth is a class about context. Yes, that is the whole of it. That is the whole of it. Right, Dina, the Sun and the Devil together. Lumen, what other cards would need to be present to lead to narcissism? Very often, it's more the context of the question. I'm talking to this guy on Hinge, and he seems great. What do you see? Now, I'm going to see that if I see that Sun card, what is the truth? Either he could make you really happy, you should be confident and be open to having a date, or he's a raging narcissist, run far, far away. What's the right answer? I'm not going to give any answer at that point. I'm going to file all of that in my head, and I'm going to ask more questions, pull more cards, talk further, and then see. I'm not going to make a conclusion right away. It's going to give me something to think about. And now, if the question is my husband a narcissist or my wife or anybody? Is this person a narcissist? And the Sun comes up, I'm going to be like, yeah, probably, for sure. For sure. Now, Annika, I would disagree. I would not see narcissism in the Magician or the King of Wands. But I can see how you could. Absolutely. Absolutely. Mixuir, so the Sun with the Devil and the Seven of Swords certainly could be. Certainly could be. But it could also be that you went to the beach and forgot your sunscreen and now you're sunburned. Could be that too. Depends on the context of the question. Dina, would the Sun reversed be more a narcissist? For me, no. It's that I am the center of the universe and I need to be your center of the universe too. Everything revolves around me. I am the Sun. I want that Sun full on, right side up in its full energy, because that's how they are. That's how narcissists are, right? Right, Claire C., the Sun was considered to be the center of the universe at one time. There it is, right. Christina, the Sun and the Emperor, sure. So what I would say is don't really, in something like this, don't really look for a specific combination of cards. Look for how you feel. Look for the other contextual clues is the key. Right, Peggy, Lou. Someone could be an egotist without being a narcissist, and that is a really important point. And so, yes, the Sun could talk about an egotist as well. So Trey, that's an interesting one, Six of Wands, because Six of Wands can come up for the person who's always like, I have to win. I have to win. I'm winning. I'm winning. I won, even though I lost. I won. Yeah, absolutely. Annika, Sun, leadership, authority, power. Certainly. So let's move on. Oh, Betty, speaking of the King of Wands, a lot say he's entrepreneurial, but I would say the King of Pentacles is, honestly, I could see any of the kings as entrepreneurial. Think about it. The King of Wands is following his passion. The King of Pentacles is working his business. The King of Cups is doing the thing he really loves. And the King of Swords is a smart businessman. All of them, it could be. Oh, that is so cool, Dina. Great. We are doing the Sun during Leo season. Yes. Now, let's move on to Judgment. Remembering that Judgment was the reason we're doing this class in the first place. So let's start with this sort of traditional weight kind of an image. And even Shiro, kind of got in there with the angel. So what are we seeing in this? Yeah, Lumen, tricky Judgment card. Judgment is the trickiest card, is it not? Oh, Claire C., I always see the kings as Steve Jobs, a planner. Sure. Okay, so y'all are so good. Y'all know exactly what to do. Tell me what you see. Yes, Annika, awakening. Trey, wake-up call. Absolutely yes. What's happening in the image, though? These are literally corpses, literally rising out of coffins to be born into the new day. Ice Chan, finding a true calling. Jean Mnuchin, a calling. Yes, absolutely. Dina, a calling is revealed. Absolutely. So what do you think? I mean, how do you feel about the corpses? Like, is that an issue at all? A new life or a new start from Betty. Transition from Annika. Very good. Also from Annika, change. Absolutely, yes. So from Christian lore, and we know that tarot originally was based on Christian mythology, this is the rapture. This is literally the judgment day. Anna K, closure. Thank you. Yeah, that's my favorite keyword for judgment is closure. Ephraim, redemption. Jeannie, from death comes life. Dina, it's in the hands of the angels beyond your power. Lumen, I've heard some readers say that judgment is a spiritual relationship connection. I'm not sure about that. I've seen some readers say the Three of Swords means you're going to live happily ever after, too. I don't freaking know. But it is true. Like, when we're in that situation, and most of the relationships that readers are going to say, oh, it's a spiritual connection, is like, usually it's the narcissistic love bombing situation where you just feel so connected, but you're not really, it's just narcissistic love bombing. But I could see it. I could see where you could go with this card to come to that. Because again, it's a calling. I am touched by an angel. Dina reminds us it's connected to Pluto. Ephraim, mediumship. I agree because you're talking to the angels. You're listening to the voice of the angels. And Betty, I don't know that it would need to be reversed. I think that this card could talk about mediumship. So much going on here. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of questions. I'm not taking them in order, but I'm going to address all that I see. And thank you so much for being so engaged here. Narcissistic love bombing. What is that? That is when you meet that charismatic person and you're so attracted and they're just everything. They love you so much. They're spending money on you. They're squiring you around town. They're telling you you're the best thing since sliced bread. It's love bombing. It's not real. They're in love with love. They want to get you hooked. They're like, some of them I think really are like in the experience and they don't recognize it's going to wear off in a week. And some of them I think it is very strategic. Yeah. And not to be all Taylor Swift on you, but on Tortured Poets Department, the song Down Bad, where she compares this narcissistic love bombing with alien abduction. And it's brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant because that's what it feels like. You know, it's like, I am chosen by this amazing person. So, yeah. Yes, I love closure as a keyword for this card. It is my favorite. Lumen, could judgment be listening to your higher self? Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. Now, the astrology. Trey, is it Pluto or Uranus? I've heard Pluto, but, you know, tarot astrology, there's a few different schools of thought, for sure. Anna K, connection to spirit and spirit guides and their message could be. So, Christina, smart question. You know I love this. How do you go? How do you go from the sun to judgment? That's an interesting thing, and we recognize that we're in the final septenary. From devil to the world, these are the cards of our spiritual enlightenment. And so I would say first, we would need to be in the fullness of our confidence. We would need to be like a child in the sunshine. You know, we would need to be in that fully engaged, happy, not worried, just this is my light and I'm letting it shine. We'd have to do that first before we could get to this place where we put the past in the past, where we recognize, and this is an important thing for me with this card, when we talk about closure. When I see judgment, I see it as a pat on the back from the universe that you've done a good job. That when you're putting closure to things, whether it went the way you wanted it to or not, you did the best you could have in that moment. And so it's closure, but it's closure with the understanding that in the final analysis, you did the best you could have. And I do see that with this card. So, Justine, judgment speaks to the masses or the collective? Always, though? I mean, sure, but I would not necessarily say always. I would say it can be very personal, especially when it comes to a person in grief. This will very often come up for a person whose spouse has passed away and they really are in that place of looking over their whole relationship, finding a way to put closure to that so that they can get on to the next chapter. And this card will speak to every aspect of that, from putting closure to recognizing that you did the best you could in the relationship to finding ways to communicate with this person now that they're in spirit. It takes you through that whole cycle. Annika, I never learned tarot, but I do see videos online to learn this. I'm able to interpret even without learning. Should I learn it and start doing readings? You should learn it. When we say start doing readings, I think most legitimate readers will do readings for themselves and friends from the very beginning because that's how you learn. But if you talk about doing professional readings, wait at least 5 years and do hundreds of readings before you decided that you want to be a professional reader. And I would say that to anybody. Now, I think it's interesting talking about judgment speaking to the collective, because it is interesting that the next card is the world. So you could say judgment is speaking to the whole world. I'm not sure what you do with that in a reading, though. Like if you're reading for Aunt Sally, how is speaking to the collective going to be significant to Aunt Sally? That's the part I'm not sure about. Heather Roberts, I've always struggled understanding the Judgment card. I think the name of the card has always thrown me off. I've always seen it in a negative light. Right. Trey, well, maybe if Aunt Sally's famous, could be. But Annika, to your point, just going back to Annika for a minute, to your point, the fact that you already have a resonance with the cards is a good thing. I mean, no doubt. Does judgment speak to one's religion? I think if one were unpacking, if one were deconstructing, like I've been doing a ton of deconstructing recently. I had sort of been of the idea that because I was raised with what I thought was like the kindest and most compassionate branch of Christianity, that I did not have or participate in harmful beliefs. I told myself that until very recently. And so like judgment is a card for me, and like really going back and unpacking the things I thought were okay that now on second or third glance feel toxic AF. From that perspective, sure. But would it speak specifically to being religious? I think if you were in the odd situation, and it does happen once in a while, of reading for an evangelical who believes in the rapture, and this card came up, it might actually talk about their fears about the rapture. That could happen, I think. Justine, well, in grief, for example, it could be that someone's whole spirit team has come to bring the one who has just passed to the other side. That's beautiful, and I love it. Yes, I love that. But I often think about your example of needing to market yourself better, so putting yourself out in front of a larger audience. So that's funny. Let me tell you how that happened. I was on, do you remember when, before we had all this live streaming that we could do, Blog Talk Radio was all the freaking rage? So I was on a million Blog Talk Radio shows. And I was on this one particular one, and we were doing readings, and the judgment card came up, and one of the, it's like a bunch of us were ringing in on what this card could mean, and it was someone asking about their business. And in that moment, all I could see was literally tooting your horn. What is advertising? It's tooting your horn. It's letting people know how awesome you are. And so in that moment, I was like, this is really offbeat. This is offbeat and off book. But I'm going to say the judgment card is saying you need to advertise more. And that has always now stuck with me. And now I'm teaching it to y'all. But that's how it came about. And this is the thing with tarot. You can be in a reading and see a card a new way. You've never seen it that way before. But it works. And then from then on, it's going to be part of the lexicon for that card for you. And then if you teach, it's going to be there for your students as well. That's how it works. Okay, Annika says, a period of awakening and clarity, certainly. Teresa, I loved Blog Talk Radio. Oh, Dina, thank you so much. Thank you. So, other thoughts about judgment. Clearly, it can be a whole lot of things. Oh, I wanted to go back to Heather, what Heather said. I've always struggled understanding the judgment card. It's the name of the card, because the name of the card is judgment. And we don't like judgment, do we? We don't want to be judged. We don't want the judgment of others. And I think we have to remember this is judgment from the perspective of the end times, the rapture, revelations. It's that piece of Christian mythology. That's what this card is. Now, let's look at some other depictions of this card. Ice Chan, does anybody think about the coffins for symbolism in the mountains? I don't love them. Oh, Claire C., old memories surfacing. Christina, would it be judging yourself? Only if you look to the past and recognize you did a good job. Like this card tells you, you must judge yourself having done well. Oh, Justine, because of the horn. Judgment could speak to sound in general. Sure. Annika, what does Major Arcana mean? Tarot is divided into two sections, the Major Arcana and the Minor Arcana. The word Arcana means secrets, so Major Arcana is greater secrets. There are 22 Major Arcana cards. Now, Crowley throws us for a loop here. Judgment is called the Eon. So that's interesting. And what do you think of that for Judgment? For Mother Piece, that's an interesting one. Here, Light Seer's Judgment, that's interesting as well. And look at this from Robin Wood. Someone was talking about Phoenix. Here's your Phoenix right here. So talk to me right now, please, about these cards. We've talked for a while about Judgment. Here are some other depictions that get us away from that Christian mythology, rapture, Judgment Day thing. What do you think? Trey, a call to transform. And I love that. I love the Phoenix. I really do. I love the idea of the Phoenix. Nicholas, good to see you. Resurrection, absolutely. What about rebirth? You know, I think that could be here as well. So, Ice Chan, not a fan because they're just too not Rider-Waite. Trey, Pluto is forced transformation. It doesn't give you a choice. It just is. Man, there's Judgment for you. I love that. I love that. Dina, Light Seers feels like a release. Certainly. Claire, so connected to chakras, always rising up. Justine also likes the Phoenix, rising from the ashes with the Phoenix. Lumen, Eon makes me think about past lives. You know. I think you got something there. I've never really thought about it, but it makes sense. Can Judgment speak to past lives? I think it could. Oh, Country Love Homestead, thank you. Don't forget to like the live, especially if you're enjoying the great information. Well, thank you so much. So this is interesting. Annika, naked woman symbolizing vulnerability. But is that? I mean, this is a pagan deck, so it doesn't have sort of the Christian associations with nudity. I mean, would you see vulnerability here or would you see power? Or both? Interesting question. Interesting. Oh, and extended arms, willingness to accept, certainly. But notice what the fingers are doing. Right? We're throwing horns. What do you think about that? What do you want to do with that? Trey, could we see soul contracts in Judgment? Yeah, I think you could. Betty, if someone asks about a past life question, would you say the World or the Fool or Wheel of Fortune would show up? Any of those could. Also, the Six of Cups can talk about past lives. Oh, should we do a class on past lives and tarot? Should we do that? Is that a good idea? And if you think it's a good idea, you know what I want you to do? I'm going to ask you to text me, message me to remind me. Oh, we're getting a lot of yeses. Oh, good one. Peggy Lou, the Ankh for Judgment. The Ankh means life and rebirth. That's beautiful. Okay, past lives and mediumship with tarot. Please message me to remind me because, I'm in one brain here, and once I'm done. I won't remember anything. Ah, yes. Okay, so Ephraim, you like what's going on here in the Crowley card. Can you say more about it? What is going on here? I don't know much about what's going on here. Um, Spiritual amnesia. Say more, Dina. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? So, just a quick aside, my connection to this card. Years and years and years ago, I rented a house in Ansonia, Connecticut with a bunch of friends. And the landlord was like, do what you want, but don't paint the walls weird colors. One of my friends painted her room this color and then painted this as a mural. She did a great job with it. It was gorgeous. The landlord was not happy, but I kind of loved this. And every time I see this, I remember that house. I remember all of that. Oh, Dina, when you're done, you're done. Yes, I think Judgment can say, done. That's true. We're done. Yeah, I agree. I agree. All right, let's move on to the world. Of course, I had all of these so very well organized. Do I now? I do not. We've got the world. We've got the world. The world. Okay, so here, and you know, like by the time IT John comes in the morning, he always gets here before I do. He's just going to see like all of these cards strewn over because I won't clean up until tomorrow. So it's funny. Oh, interesting, Trey. I kept getting the world reversed just before COVID hit. And that brings up a really interesting point, that the world can literally talk about the world and what's going on in it and how you feel about it. Absolutely, absolutely. Now, the nudity here. Ice Chan likes the purple cloth and wiser. Absolutely. So achievement, completion, wholeness, having all of the elements gathered with you. Febborn, unfolding of your wings and attempting to fly, navigating the elements. The dancing majorette, absolutely, yes. So let's talk about what we got going on here. Okay, traditionally, we're ending to a cycle of life, happy endings, yes. Let's look at this image. So these characters, we know that they show up as well on the Wheel of Fortune. They are the four evangelists, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They're also the four fixed signs of the zodiac, representing the four elements. In the Wheel of Fortune, they're writing their books. Now their books are literally out into the world. The ribbon here is in the infinity sign. The infinity sign shows up in a few places on the weight deck. Above the head of the magician and strength, in the Two of Pentacles, and here in the world. Betty says, the world is your oyster, the world at your feet. Lumen, contemporary readers like to bring up something being done online, like the World Wide Web, when paired with other cards. That makes sense, yes. Interesting, Dina, my card has meanings on it and reduces 21 to 3 to represent community. Christina, traveling the world. Yes, absolutely. So Gina, yes, Christian symbolism, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Went to bed with their pajamas on. Sorry. I was a Christian child. I can't help it. Dina, I have heard she is stepping through a portal. It's bigger than that. What is this wreath? It is the holy yoni. It's a vagina. She's literally stepping through a portal, being born into the new world. And so there really is a connection between Judgment and the world, because there is literally in both of these cards a birth into the new world. Okay, Trey reminds us, ruled by Saturn. Betty, the world is watching. Lumen, someone or something being at a distance from you. And like one of the things I think about with this card is look at the macrocosm, not the microcosm. Pull out. Don't be so myopic. Pull out. That sounded sexual. I mean, in your vision. In your vision. Another thing that's interesting. There are so many in the Major Arcana. There are so many cards that are specific to Christian mythology, but there is no card that is obviously the Christ card. Certainly, the Hanged Man is the crucifixion, certainly. But it has been theorized that the world is the Christ card. And in that theme, one of the key words for the world is attainment. Claire, a creative idea being manifested. The world could be reincarnation for sure. Oh, Caroline, thank you. So here's another interesting thing. In some early decks, you see the world with two heads, one male, one female. On one hand, this is the Christ card. On the other hand, it's also a hermaphrodite. And it's thought that what is under this is more than you'd expect. Which is interesting for the trans community. Like when we talk about how tarot evolves, this card could have special meaning for trans people for that reason. So there's a lot here. Oh, interesting, Trey. There's 888 in the world, and I read that somewhere the Christ is associated with that number. Wow. Ephraim, you know a bunch. Wow, there's a lot there. You are saying a lot there for sure. Justine, for me, the world is the happiest card. Everything has come full circle, and we can now rejoice in the free-flowing every of things just as they are. That's beautiful. This can also, again, evolving in modern times, can be a card to talk about conservation and ecology. Certainly not something that we thought about earlier, but we can think about that with this card now. So the thing is, it is a completion. It is also an ending. Lumen, interesting thinking of trans energy. Trans people being the gatekeepers in her village and the channels between spirit and human. I love that. I love that. So what are the royal stars, Dina? I know these as the four evangelists. I know them as the four fixed signs of the zodiac and therefore the four elements. What are the four royal stars? Would love to know. So let's think about the story here then. Let's look at a few more worlds. Like we've got this one. I love that Crowley calls it the universe. Oh, Dina, I did not know any of that. That's so cool. What else? Oh, I love this. The Mother Piece world, I think, is pretty fabulous. I love that. So what do you think of these other worlds? Like, I think Light Seers is almost a little more traditional here in that we have these four things and she's stepping through something. So like in this one, Light Seers, I think becomes much more like weight. We've got these. Here, Chiro was that's pretty weight-like to me, I think. Obviously, Old English, very weight-like. Wow. Thank you, Dina and Trey, for that. That's really interesting. I love that. All right, so what do you think about these worlds? You like them better, you like them worse? What do you think? And if we are to look at these three cards together and see this story, these are the final three cards that speak of spiritual enlightenment. Claire, that card would sound like a reverberating gong if it were a sound. That's fabulous. I love it. So what do each of these cards have to say about our spiritual enlightenment? To allow ourselves to shine, to put closure to the past and listen to the voice of the angels. And there's something here about living in the world, but also there's something here too about creating your own world. What's up in your world? And what is your relationship with the world, and what are you doing in the world? Oh, Dina, Guardians of the Whole Sky, that is fabulous. So I think very often with the world, we're like, okay, the journey's over. And we don't really think about how deep this card is. Trey, I feel like the world is a card that's so nebulous. Yes, people have a really hard time understanding it. Yes. So to end, let's go through a list of things we can say about the world. The big picture, completion, world travel, people who are global citizens. This card comes up for people who have citizenship in more than one country, who have lived in more than one country. This card will come up for them. Oh, Claire, you see an egg. Lumen, a return to source energy and reincarnation. February, we have now gathered strength and can now slip through the loop. Yeah, so there is this being born into something new, which is so much like Judgment. Like these two cards have so much in common in a way. But here we have to put closure, and here we're just going forward. And there it is. So if we're looking at just mundane questions, will I get the job? Very likely. How's this relationship going to go? It's either your forever person or it's going to be nothing at all. There's nothing in the middle. It's either all or nothing. Dina, I love that you hear music with these cards. That is so good. That is so good. Ifrain, stepping into creation into the minors. That's beautiful. I love it. I love it. So we are in our final few moments. Right. Trey, all or nothing is very Saturn. And that can be a thing. What is the attitude? If we look at what's an attitude, the attitude could be all or nothing, or it could be big, a really big attitude. Go big or go home. All or nothing, go big or go home. Here, the past is over. And here, allow yourself to shine brightly. There is so much that we can say about these cards and have said about these cards. But on the other hand, there are some simple things we can think about when we look at them. If the Judgment is a wake-up call, how can it be closure? Because to wake up to something is to open up to something new. To do that is to put closure to something in the past. And very often, okay, for example, I'm in this really lousy relationship. Wake up call, gotta end the relationship. I think those things, and it may be in a reading, it's one or the other and not both, but I think there are ways it can be both. Oh, Dina, that is a fun exercise. Let's all do this. Shuffle these three and pick one. Right, Trey, the sore has to be acknowledged before it can heal. Okay, so if I shuffle all three and pick one, let's all do this. This is fun. Dina got Judgment. What did I get? I got the Sun. Yay. All right. So, April, good to see you. We're not doing readings tonight. We're just finishing up a class, but thank you so much for being here. All right. My friends, I want to thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. Thank you for sharing your energy. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Obviously, there's no right or wrong answers here, no tarot police, but I think we did a good job diving into these cards. I hope when they come up in readings for you, you'll feel more comfortable interpreting them. And I hope you can embrace their spiritual lessons for yourself. I will tomorrow be putting up the links for our live reading sessions coming up. And members, remember we have a members-only live stream coming up on the 31st. Dina, tough cards. Seriously, they are. And, oh, Lumen, your classes are so helpful. Well, thank you so much. There's, when I'm super old, I'm old now, but I'm hoping to also be super old later. When I'm super old, I think I may stop doing readings and just teach. I love, love, love teaching. So thank you so much. I love doing readings too. Don't get me wrong. In fact, book a reading with me. I love doing readings. But will I still love doing readings when I'm 80? I'm not sure. But I will always love teaching. There's no doubt. All right. Betty, love these classes. Never get tired talking about tarot. Agreed. My friends, thank you so much. Have a great night.